Welcome back to the show where some random Norwegian man on the internet shows you how to fold clothes. This is the women's edition. Today we're going to have a look at skirts. I'm going to show you one really nice file fold that you can use to organize. One nice roll that's going to save a lot of space and also be great for travel. And then lastly we're going to have a look at a really cool way that you can save some space on those skirts that you generally can't really fold, that you need to hang. That is the most wrinkle-free method. Alright, so let's start out with this long skirt that flares out. It's also 2 layers of fabric, so I should probably cover everybody's bases here. If you have a shorter skirt or any other type of skirt, this will work fine as well. However, this is not good if you get wrinkles on your skirt easily. Keep watching and I'll show you how to deal with those too. As you can see here, sorry about the table, it's slightly too small for this. So as you can see here at the bottom, this skirt flares out. So what I like to do with the skirts that flare out is that I'm going to fold in the sides. So this particular skirt also has 2 layers of fabric, so you need to get both of the layers here. When you fold them in, make sure everything is nice and even. You don't want it to wrinkle up here as you fold them in, as that's going to create more wrinkles on the road. So just folding it in here, so we're going to end up with this nice rectangle shaped skirt. And next up we're going to split the skirt into 3 parts like this, and then we're going to fold both sides over like so. So let me do that here, like this, and on the other side too, like this. So now you can see we've created this long, nicely shaped thing here. If it's not completely straight, don't worry about it. It won't matter that much. Alright, so next up we're going to fold the skirt in half. Generally I think half is fine for all types of skirts, even the shortest ones. If you have a really short skirt, you may be able to skip over this part, but for most people, folding it in half once should be good. So you can see here we still have some part of the skirt here at the bottom that flares out a little bit. So I'm just going to fold that back under so that everything is nice and lined up. From this point we're going to split it into 3 parts again in this direction here. And I'm going to take the part with the waistband as well as the bottom of the skirt, and I'm going to fold that in towards the middle like this. So this allows us to take the side that's more structure and holds better together and fold that over this side, so that it kind of keeps everything in there nice and tight. So at this point we should be able to stack up the skirt like this. Now this fold is really nice. You can easily stack multiple skirts like this. I talk about this a lot more in the how to fold clothes to save space video. You can check that out after this when we're done here. This is not my personal favorite. I'll go more into detail about that in that video. What I like to do instead, if you're going to use this method, is that you take it back out like this, and once you folded it over in half, just turn it around so that you end up with the part with the waistband at the bottom here like this. Can you see that? This is at the bottom now, not at the top. And from here it's the same procedure as before. Split them into 3 parts. I like to fold in this side first with the waistband. So now you can see the waistband is actually on top here. Now the next step is that we're going to take this bottom, just kind of fold it in like this, open up the top layer, and you can stuff it in there. Now this is going to hold together better. Sometimes skirts kind of fall apart when you try to stack them. This is going to help a lot with that. But for those of you with a keen eye, you can kind of see that the waist is a little bit thinner than the bottom of the skirt. So I'm going to show you an alternative fold that you can use. That is my favorite. This is fantastic if you're a person that likes traveling. It's also the method that I teach in my block rolling course, where we show every fold to save space really. Or actually more of rolls, but anyway. So this method is slightly different. So we're going to start out again with a skirt here, laying down like this, with the front facing up. And at the bottom here, we are going to take the bottom. This has 2 layers, so it's extra difficult to work with. And we're going to flip this part inside out so that it covers the outside as well here. So for skirts, you may need to flip out about, let's say 15 centimeters. If you have a really short skirt, feel free to reduce that to 10 centimeters, maybe even 4 inches. So once you've created yourself a nice little pocket here at the bottom, we're gonna again fold in the flares a little bit so that they're not in the way. If you have a skirt that doesn't flare much, feel free to skip this step. Folding in the flares can cause slightly more wrinkles here on the actual fold, but in the long run, it's going to save you a lot more wrinkles that they create, since otherwise it's going to end up getting kind of smooshed together and not good. Better to just fold in the flares if you have them. So at this point, we are going to again split it either into 3 parts like this, or we can do fourths too. For this example, I want to do fourths just so we can get some variation. So if you do fourths, you're going to end up with a thinner roll and a taller roll. If you fold it in thirds, you're going to end up with a more smushed together roll, but it's going to be thicker. Both are fantastic. It depends on how you like to organize. I talk more about that in the video, the long, the complete guide to folding clothes to save space. You can check that out. So at this point, we are going to fold it in fourths. So 1/4 in towards the middle like this, and 1/4 on the other side as well. So you can see fourths is kind of nice for skirts and this type of thing that kind of end up flaring out towards the bottom, as you kind of get a little bit more control since you can fold them in on top of each other slightly, like this. Okay, so now we're going to turn the skirt around so that you have that little pocket that you created on the bottom facing away from you. And from the top here, we are going to start rolling up the skirt. So you don't want to roll too tightly. Feel free to, don't be afraid to roll. I mean, as long as it doesn't tug too much on the fabric, you should be completely fine. So here, once we start to reach the bottom, I am going to roll it over like this. And I'm going to take one of my hands and I'm going to grab hold of the entire roll here with the pocket too. Make sure you don't let go of it. Pull this whole thing up. Now, for this particular skirt, it's a little bit tricky since we have the second layer of fabric. You're probably not going to need to struggle with this. If you do, just take your time. It can be slightly annoying if there are 2 layers. Perhaps the previous method is better in that case. So anyway, we're going to take one of our hands and we're going to flip it, this little pocket, over this little roll that we have created, like this. Just make sure that you secure everything nicely. At this point, take your hand, turn it around, like this. Now you have your other hand free, and you're going to take the other side of the pocket here and you're going to flip it over as well, like this. 2 layers of skirts. Nobody said folding skirts as a man would be easy. I've been practicing a lot for the course, so it's cool. It's fun to do something a little different too, right? Alright, so here you have my personal favorite roll. I also want to show you an alternative that you can use for more business skirts or maybe more formal skirts. You know, those that they kind of wrinkle up easily. Another thing to note here, you can see this one is really nice and stackable compared to the previous method. You can lay it down, you can face it up, but it does create slightly more wrinkles compared to the next one. Alright, so I got one of these more suit type of skirts. So I'm going to start out by laying it down flat like this. I like to start with the front facing up like this. And from the waist of the skirt, I'm going to start gently rolling it down. Now, when you do this, you kind of want to make sure you avoid any wrinkles, as that's kind of the idea behind this. So you can see I'm kind of careful with this roll, and that's all there is to this one really. It does save a whole lot more space than it hanging them. However, if you truly want to avoid wrinkles, it is better to hang them. So just grab a hanger. There are lots of options that you can use. For example, you can use hangers with multiple layers on them to hang. That saves a lot of space as well. This one is good for travel. You can stuff it inside your jacket, for example, to give some protection. Otherwise, if you have skirts that don't wrinkle up easily, this previous roll is also really good for travel as it holds together really nicely. And you can head over to the video where I show you, it's called How to Fold Clothes to Save Space. It's a complete guide where I show you a bunch of tips. I do recommend that you watch that. It's really nice and good. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this man fold skirts, and I will see you next week.